everybody, happy 2025. This is the first instructional video of the year and I'm painting right off of Dry Creek Road, and right now I'm actually at the Mezcal trailhead. So I'm actually painting at a pullout just down the road close to this trailhead, and you get this really beautiful view of some of the distant cliffs. The sky is pretty cloudy. We just got some snow this morning and some snow yesterday. None of it really stuck, but it is still kind of lingering on the cliffs, and you can definitely feel the coolness and the moisture in the climate today. So it definitely produced some different colors, and it's very exciting to receive snow in Sedona, and I hope that we get more snow so that I can paint more of that and share it with you guys. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like it. If you do, subscribe if you haven't already. Leave any questions in the comments. Also, I'm always open to your critiques. I love that. So thank you for continuously inspiring me as well. Have a beautiful rest of your week, and I hope to be putting out another video soon. Today I have a small 5x7" ampersand Gesso board panel, and I'm experimenting today with a kind of violet wash, which is ultramarine blue and alizarin crimson, to match those cool colors. Wiping it down, and then you can see I've dragged a little kind of orange into that wipe down. One of the ways that we can start our drawing is by wiping away the areas that are the lightest, which for here, that is the sky. And then I can just leave that on the ground plane. I'm going back into my wash mixture and painting in the cliffs that are in the background. This will be my middle value. And then I'll make a mixture for my darkest darks, which is the tree line vegetation. That's gonna be ultramarine blue. I'm gonna have a little bit of cad red medium plus alizarin, and then just a touch of that cad yellow medium. And I'll kind of play around with that and the cad lemon, because I'm really trying to push those cooler notes in the landscape while still having like a foreground and background. So you can see really quickly just how I've laid the whole composition and idea down in a different way. So we don't always have to physically go in with a drawing, with a sketch. We can wipe down areas and then get in our light, middle, and dark rather quickly. That's typically how it should be when you're plein air painting. You know, I wouldn't say that this is a great painting. It's just a little study, and I'm experimenting with different ways to communicate the value, light, color, all of those things. So now I can start modeling some of the foreground a little bit, because I've already got all my darks in. I've got the shapes that I want. So with this brush, you can see how it changes from warmer to cooler. The foreground brush is actually, it feels like a very neutral gray-green. So anytime that you're working with a neutral, you're working with color complements essentially. So if I have green bushes that are more gray, I'm going to add more red to them to desaturate and push that neutrality. I've got some beautiful blues hovering at that horizon line. The vegetation really looks pretty blue as it is both receding and the coolness of it. There's some frost and some snow still here in the scene, so it's reflecting some of that light from the sky a bit more than normal. And then now I'm kind of trying to gauge more accurately what those colors are in the mountain. The more I look at that mountain, the more warm those rocks feel. But when I really stand back and look at the whole scene together, in comparison to everything else, they're very cool. So finding that local and relative color is really important. So, really studying the shapes as they appear, but then, relating them to the whole scene. A lot of times with the background, it's a good rule of thumb to just push cool mixtures and blues as something is receding into space. Even if it doesn't feel that far away, it's going to give the scene so much depth. And I don't really have a large panel here, so orchestrating that correctly is pretty key. When I'm looking at the sandstone, those lower cliffs are actually a different type of sandstone, so that's where more of the red comes through. It really looks like mauve or almost like a pinkish violet from this distance, and because of the diffused light. So adding a little bit of red and white to that kind of yellow-gray mixture I have for the sandstone wall. And of course I'll be dropping in more highlights, but for now I've just integrated that a little with the tree line. And the foreground grasses are really quite yellow. They're very bright. With this diffused light, there's a lot of reflected light, I feel like, in the grasses. So my lightest values are the sky and the ground plane. I feel like there is some lingering frost too in the grasses that's making them feel brighter as well. So I've really got an orange yellow mixture, and then I've dropped in a little bit of my ultramarine blue and titanium white to again desaturate and cool it down. And then I've got more of those blue tones in the sandstone walls here and towards kind of the top of that plateau. There's a little more snow lingering up there. So I'm gonna try to communicate that a little. As I'm looking at all of the moving parts, I can go and drop colors back down into the grasses and into the tree line as well. And just really figuring out what these cliffs want to feel like. It's funny, the atmosphere has kind of been moving in and out. It was very kind of sucked in when I arrived here, and I found that to be a little bit more interesting than more of the light that's come into the scene. You've sort of had this ominous cliff feature in the background. So while at the same time I'm trying to drop in some of those warm tones on the rocks, I also don't want to lose that feeling of having this mass that's a bit more in shadow, and just that overall coolness that struck me when I first arrived to the scene. What's great about alla prima is you can really control the layering. So, you know, I'm not in my wash phase anymore, but I'm also not really laying it down in a thick impasto way. So I can lay in, you know, this kind of feeling of the local color of the rocks, and then I can overlay a bit more of those cool tones over it, and it'll blend really nicely. So the way that you are handling the paint also makes a difference in your ability to intentionally, you know, capture everything that's going on in the scene relatively quickly. I've also added some of those background cliffs, which are a lighter grayish blue. I'm definitely trending more towards grays. I'm trying to get in a good mixture of gray with the blue so that nothing is too overpowering or too chromatic. The diffused light really desaturates a lot of the colors, as you can see in the landscape. So playing with those complements is going to be super important. And like I said, I'm not, you know, doing a master work here. I'm really just experimenting and finding ways to quickly communicate composition, value structure, trying to match the colors to the scene. So I would really consider this like a sketchbook practice, and, you know, not necessarily a great painting that I'm trying to finish out here in the field. And this is what the foundation of plein air really is for me, is it's just figuring out ways to record your ideas, and eventually, you know, they continue to work out more and more. And having the intention when you go out into the field, you know, today am I kind of trying to experiment, or am I just going to do what I know and create a really awesome painting? So, you know, kind of knowing what you're doing and setting out with an intention. That sky is super gray, so I've mixed that into the top there where the clouds are kind of hanging out. And then I've really just taken some cad lemon and titanium white right out of the tube and laid it down there, so it feels like this illumination is kind of bursting behind the clouds. And for me, that's going to be the main effect or note that I'm capturing in this whole scene. I really love that tension between where the illumination in the clouds are and the grasses down below. So you can see that they're kind of at a diagonal and they're opposite. So for me, the eye has a really interesting place to land. Now I'm dropping these clouds over into that burst of light to integrate it a bit more into the sky. Really, there's not very much blue in the sky at all. You can just see how it's pretty much like gray and white. So that's essentially some kind of mixture of orange and ultramarine blue that I've got going on here. And I want to wipe my brush and clean it between mixtures, because, you know, if I were to drag that gray into the white at the wrong moment, then it would just get kind of muddied. It wouldn't have that strong illumination effect that I was going for. So I took a clean brush, put in that yellow white, and then took my other brush, sky brush, and feathered in those clouds. And you can use the same brush, I often do, but you just want to make sure that it's really clean in between mixtures. Unless you're going for having it more blended and you want it to be within the same color family. And you can see how I've overlaid some of those cools from the sky back down into the rocks. And this is just a little study to capture the feeling of the day.